Professor Wang, you have an overview of what the Chinese-US relationship looks like from the Chinese side. From the American side, it's a valuable relationship, but it's one that triggers a lot of concerns. And many people will say that those concerns are well-founded. I'll get back to that in a minute. But first of all, what does the Chinese-US relationship in its modern incarnation look like to you?
Yeah, I think that, since China opened up in 1978, that was exactly a few months later, China and the U.S. established diplomatic ties. So you can see China's opening up is largely opened up to the U.S. as well. And now, after 4 decades of development, the marriage between the U.S. and China has generated the largest global value chain ever had in the 21st century. And then China has been able to lift 850 million people out of poverty and also contributing 35% of the GDP growth. So I think, their marriage really made the world goes around and more effectively. And it's hard to imagine that two countries would decouple or, go into two directions. So it's fundamentally we have to how to maintain the ties that we used to have and how to really improve and correct the problem we have. It's really the challenge facing us.
Many people speak about that, of the hundreds of millions of people who are pulled out of poverty, some of them in extreme poverty.
Yeah.
Today there are about 40 or maybe 50 million left who are the hardest to reach.
Yes.
But when we look at the overall picture, if all that's been achieved already, is the best already in the past for China, and therefore is the best of what it offers to the world already gone?
Yeah. No, I think no. I think China now has become one of the largest engine of the world economic growth. China has become the largest trading nation for over 130 countries. China now actually generate a massive investment plan. China has the best infrastructure network in the world and 5G. So the value chain center in China continues to generate good quality product, but also the investment infrastructure, all the expertise China had to sustain the growth of all the next 4 or 5 decades. But China also have the 1.4 billion people, 400 million people already become a middle class. So you can have another 400 million, another 400 million. So in the next 2 or 3 decades, China will be the largest market in the world. I don't think any multinational would like to abandon that.
It's an incredibly exciting place to live as well. I've lived in Beijing for many years. But what I'm excited about, for example, the youth, the digital era, which is underpinned by 5G that you talked about there, are exactly the areas that people are concerned by. 5G, they say they don't want to be a part of this Huawei infrastructure for all their good reasons, they say. And then for the youth, who are now finding it difficult to go and study abroad, particularly in the United States, are now viewed with lens of suspicion. What's your China? What's the real China to you?
No, I think China is really now. In the past, there have been a lot of on the hardware infrastructure. Now China had, every year 9 million college students freshly graduated out of college. China has now 600,000 students going to study abroad. Half of them went to the United States, and China have 150 million tourists traveling outside China. So you see, China is people-to-people exchange is also strengthening. So that part is giving me the optimism that China is still connected with the world. And I think that the young people in China will find this is innovative and entrepreneurial land that to realize the opportunities with the Great Bay Project, the Guangdong Bay Project, so another innovation powerhouse to be out of Hong Kong and this Pearl River Delta region. I think that China young people will still have a lot to gain in the foreseeable future.
I want to go back to what you said a lot earlier, which was about the decoupling. It hasn't happened.
Yeah.
Some people might say it's already begun to happen. You say you find it very hard to imagine a China and the United States 40 years on that are divorced in the way that people see it. Do you think it's going to be like that, like a marriage where we go through the ups and downs, but there may be a full stop in between?
I think that depends how we can, between China and the U.S., how we really act on that, because it's decided by the people. And because 40 years marriage, maybe there's some fatigue, there's some, tiring up, but let's see it. It's inseparable because the two economies intertwined. China and U.S. build this largest value chain in the world. And it's so complementary. I think maybe you have to realize that maybe there's a different way of a path of development. So China is a mixed economy. The private sector counts, private sector plus multinational counts 80% of Chinese economy, provide 90% of employment, 60-70% of tax revenue. SOE is only 20-25%. So it's not totally state-run. So I think if we really work on the market stimulus and then have some moderate of government intervention, so probably we can allow a little different model to develop, as long as it's really contributing to the world. And let's not kill a goose that laid the golden eggs, or stop the development of China for that purpose.
By the way, a 40-year marriage is not that bad, and it's pretty rare these days. Very, very quickly, in rounding up, they say that the relationship, at least the trade relationship, is back on track. Mm-hmm. Is the fundamental relationship back on track?
No, I think it takes time. We need incremental progress, phase by phase. Let's set this tariff dispute first. Let's have a trade, for the agreement, tariff agreement, and then let's work on other differences. But we need a big trade agreement to really calm down us a little bit, to really live up to the expectation of the business community and the world. So we cannot really deteriorate so far in a free fall that then will be the end of the world. So we avoided the military world war. We have to avoid economic world war. So that's fundamentally, I think we should stop, and we are continue to improve as time goes by.
Professor Wang Huiyao, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.